So if you would, please in the chat, go ahead and type in your name and your section number for your attendance. Name and section number. And if you can't remember your section number, just remember to put your name in. I'll find your section. And just as a reminder for this class, you do have to have your cameras on. I understand when things happen, you have to turn it off real quick and do this or that, but please have it on for at least the majority of the class.
Dr. Cockrell, I'm trying to figure out how to turn my camera on.
Yes,
My
ma'am.
personal computer, has not been working. So this is a school computer, and for some reason, it is blocking the camera, and I'm not quite sure how to turn it on because it told me join with camera, and I clicked accept, and then it popped up a black screen with my name. So I don't really know what to do.
It probably has the cover over for you to slide off the camera. So look where your camera is located and see if there's something that covers the camera.
Okay, I'll look at that.
And if not, if it's not that, go down to your video and make sure that it's on. But it could be a settings issue. For those school issue devices, there are a lot of settings things that the school district puts on them. But yeah, if it's a black screen, it's on. Like now it's off because we only see your name. But when it's just a black screen, it may be something closing the camera off. Like I have one on mine. And it closes it off and then it pops it back on. So just, I think I only let two other people in. Please put your name and your section number in the chat so that you get credit for being on this call today. Currently, I only have 23 people that have put something in the chat, but it's 29 participants minus one makes 28. So please sign in with your name in the chat because when I go back and put this attendance in, I want to make sure to give everyone credit for being on. Um, this is our quickest class of them all. There's no PowerPoint and all of those things for our class today. Today is our summation class, is what I like to call it, where we just kind of sum up all the things we've done this trimester and answer any questions before we release for the end. I will go back on that Canvas page and go through the module of the things that are expected to be done between now and November. All assignments, let me express this to all of you. I have to turn grades in by a certain day. And just like you all, I've said before, I am a principal of a school. So, I have all those duties as well. And so I try to get things turned in. And I'm a 2 day early type of a person because I don't want to be the last day scrounging trying to get things turned in. So before I get into that, see, I've started the class. Let me stop for a minute and ask if anyone on the call would like to open us in a word of prayer this morning.
I will.
Thank you.
Let us bow. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this class and every participant in this class. We thank you for Dr. Cockrell and her sharing her knowledge with us. God, we ask that you be with us this morning and lead us and guide us as we go through this class this morning. And we ask that you open our hearts and our minds to receive what's to be said to us, what's to be taught to us. And Lord, we thank you for bringing us this far and giving us the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding to do all that we need to do to be successful in this class. And again, we say thank you. To God, we give all praise, honor, and glory. Amen, amen, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Frost. Now, as I was saying, I'm going to go ahead and get into the Canvas module and just kind of take us through the things that are due, that are coming up and talk about dates and deadlines. I'm going to do that first. And then I'm going to put you guys in different breakout sessions. And just keeping in mind the breakout sessions you'll be in won't be with your groups. They're just going to be random breakout sessions where you will meet somebody new or maybe some of your old teammates from your group projects. And then you'll discuss the 6 domains. Let's see, where are we? We are at the end. Let's go here. Yeah, we are truly at the end. I forget I have to put mine on student view. There we go. Now I can share. All righty. So looking at the things that are due. So we are at week 8. Yay, we've made it. And you are in your virtual class. That was the first thing this morning. And then your Dropbox for this class for this Sunday is your evaluation system. So that is due tomorrow, 11:59, 59 seconds. And that's when you're going to turn in sorting form A, evidence sorting, well, scripting, I call it the scripting form. And you're going to turn in a narrative. So those things will all be included in this assignment when you turn that in. Then we're rolling into week 9 where you have your 6 domains project that is due on October 27th. And I want y'all to pay attention that the discussion is due on October 30th. That is not a Sunday. That's the one assignment that always throws everyone off, is because they think they have until Sunday to get that turned in when you actually don't. And so if that is due on October 30th, I will have grades and all of those things turned in by November 1st. Okay, so keep that in mind. October 30th is a Wednesday. So that discussion needs to be done by Wednesday. But pay attention to the discussion. You don't have to respond to anyone. It's just you by yourself giving me some feedback basically as to how you felt the class went for this trimester. So you can get that done truly at any time. To get that knocked out. But all grades need to be done and in. Anything that you are working on, the 6 domains project, anything, all things have to be done by November 1st for me because I'll get all those grades inputted on that day. So let's spend a minute or two talking about this 6 domains project. Now, with the domains project, you're literally taking the questions that have been asked. And I know someone asked, do they need to list the questions? And all the past ones that I've ever had, the questions are listed because you need a guide. I need to know what I'm reading about, right? So the question is listed or some paraphrase of the question is listed. And then you tell what that is in short things. I don't want a paragraph or let me say this. You're not going back through like your domains assignments and just copying and pasting those in this project. This is supposed to be your culminating project. And I would like for you to think about it in terms of if we were in a face-to-face class and you were coming in at 6 o'clock for your evening class and you had to present this project or you're presenting. So whether it is in Canva, whether it is a PowerPoint or any other means of doing so, what would you present? That's the idea in mind when you put this together. About 8 to 9 slides, and we all know the 9th slide is going to be our reference slide. And that's our book, Marzano and Carbo, is our book that we'll put on that reference page. I don't need you to go out and find other resources to complete this assignment. This is all you need is your textbook and the knowledge that you've gained over the course of this trimester with the 6 domains. So you'd list domain 1 on the slide. What would an administrator do to make sure you are leading and making decisions based upon your school's data to improve student improvement? If you didn't want to list all that out, you can paraphrase that in a manner that is a heading or a topic or a title. And then you list the things that go on and put your cute graphics and all of that on it. But it's just taking what you glean from the book, our PowerPoint discussions in our past two virtual classes, as well as your knowledge from being an educator, and you're answering these 6 questions. And again, presenting. So I always think about presenting as you're completing this assignment. Are there any questions about that? All right, hearing none. Let's make sure we pay attention to the rubric. It is here for you, so that you know exactly what the expectation is for this assignment. So go back to that rubric as well. All righty, no questions about the 6 domains assignment. Yay. I do want to look at, I'm going backwards.
There's one in the chat. I'm not sure if you saw it.
I did not, because when I'm on screen share, the chat doesn't really pop up for me.
It just says, so short bullets like you were presented.
Yes. Now, when we say short bullets like you would present it, I'm not listening to you talk, right? So if you put a bullet point there that I don't know what you're talking about, keep that in mind as well. But no, I don't want this long drawn out thing. But yes, bullet points where you're giving just an overview of what your thoughts are, what you glean from it. Y'all, there are no, what I call, what the kids say, no dumb questions. It's only the ones that are asked and the ones that are not asked. So please ask them.
So we have a reference slide, but do we reference anything within the
book?
bullets?
No, because your information is coming from what you
All
got
of it.
from the textbook, our conversations, and the PowerPoints, and all my PowerPoint things come from the textbook.
Okay.
So yes, your book will be your point of reference.
I have a question. So, on the PowerPoints, like, you don't want, like, I have the question as my heading, and then like the bullets don't need to be like the elements or whatever, and then in the notes put what I'm going to say. Are you want
No, I'm not
everything
going to
I'm going
read
to
your.
say?
I'm
So you're
not
not
going
going to read my
to.
notes?
I'm not. No,
Okay. I need to change my mind.
I'm not.
Okay. All
I'm gonna
right.
go through those PowerPoints and or your Canva, and I'm gonna read through them, Google Slides. And let me say this, and I may have said this when y'all did the best practices. If you're doing Google Slides, you have to give me permission to view it. I have to have permission to view it. That has happened oh so many times. I'll get to a Google slide and I can't open it. And I send the things asking for permission, and then a lot of times I don't get it. So just make sure I can see those. But no, ma'am, I'm not gonna go down and read all the notes attached. I promise you, y'all are overthinking it. I promise you, you're overthinking it. It's just a PowerPoint presentation on the 6 domains. Don't overthink it. Domain 1, y'all have written these things out. When we analyze the data, we have to have a data team. We have to meet periodically. We have to know what the data is speaking on. Like, that's all you're doing. All those fabulous things that you wrote in those in your papers, you're pulling out those big highlights and plopping them in that PowerPoint. Okay? All right, Holly's already, she's still like, I gotta figure out what I need to go back and take off. It is not punitive, Holly. I tell y'all that every time I'm on here. I try my hardest not to be punitive. Okay, so we're gonna, are there any more questions about the 6 domains project? Okay, so I'm gonna go back in with the Canvas module only because I did not break down this one a little bit more. I wanna go back in and talk about our growth system assignment. Here's where, and I always go back to where people go wrong on these assignments. The one thing that is always missed in this one is I'll get one form and not the other. And that's going to be, that's a big points deduction because you have to have 20 points for one, 20 points for the other. So if you have one and not the other, you automatically lose 20 points, right? And then I'll have people that don't put their narrative in. So it's all these pieces together. So you have to do the reflection as well as the narrative. And I want to draw your attention to this part. Paragraph 1 of the narrative has to briefly cover what occurred. But here's the big one. How many given in a year? You have to put that in that paragraph. That is the meat of that paragraph. You can tell me all about what the state of Mississippi does and how that it looks for us. If you don't tell me the number of evaluations that are expected, required, you lose those 20 points. So I know this is due tomorrow. So if you have submitted it and you did not put that in there, go ahead and put it in there and resubmit. Your latest, greatest assignment is what I grade. I don't grade the old one. The system automatically puts the latest one in the queue for me to grade first. I have to actually go back to get the second one. I mean, the first one, not the second one, the first one. So just be mindful of that. And that is going to still be in third person, the narrative evaluation part. Then when you get to paragraph 2 for your reflection, that's when you talk about what you gleaned from it. Is how you felt during the evaluation and was the instrument easy to follow, and what difficulties you may have encountered or found difficult to understand. That's what you are answering in the reflection. It's not about what they didn't do at your school or how it looks different. It's those thoughts right there. That's what your reflection is on. Okay? And then you all know mechanics and APA format is what you will be leaning towards with that assignment. So if you follow this outline, you should be fine. Watch the video, do the evaluation, use the scripting and sorting form, do paragraph 1, your narrative of the actual evaluation itself, and then your paragraph 2 is your reflection. This should not be a 2 or 3 page. This can be a 1 pager. This could be a half pager, but it should be concise and answers the questions that are in that rubric. Any questions about that?
I do, Dr. Cockrell.
Yes.
I was looking at I printed out the scripting form. We just fill that out during the process of watching the video. We don't submit that.
Yes, you do. That's what I'm saying. That is
So I
exactly what
submit
I'm
those 2
saying.
pages. But the other 9 pages on the sorting form, I don't submit.
Yes. That's what I'm saying to you. You have to turn in the scripting form and the sorting form and your narrative.
Okay, well, you said form as in singular. That's why
Well,
I'm kind of confused.
I do say form because it's a scripting form. It has multiple
Okay,
pages, and as much
okay,
as you take notes, the pages grow. Now, the
okay,
sorting evidence forms is a lot of pages because it's all the
okay.
domains.
So
So
we do turn
forgive
in both of those.
forgive me
Okay,
for speaking on that.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
But yes, let me make sure we both are, excuse me, on the same page, everyone. This is one of the documents.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am,
This
I
is the
have
one
that.
you took your notes as you watched the video. You're just note taking what the teacher's doing, the student is doing, like we did in our little mock when we did together in our last class. And then you have this form. This is the second one that you're turning in, and I'm sorry. See, it doesn't have an S on it, so I just say it that way. Forgive me. But yes, it's multiple pages because it's
All right.
every domain that's listed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I had
Is
a
it?
question.
Oh, go ahead.
So can the reflection part be in first person? I think I
Yes.
sent you an email. I was just making sure.
Yes, and I am so sorry I've not
No,
answered
you're
an
good.
email this week. My daughter was a junior maid and she has sucked up all my time.
You're good. I was just making sure.
So forgive me for that. I am going to be a good steward today and get all these things wrapped up.
Thank you.
Dr.
Yes.
Cockrell.
Okie dokie. Yes.
So even though we're only focusing on domains 2 and 3, you still want all of the pages?
Yes, ma'am. You can put NA on them. And now I'm going to say this, and some of those, like we are focused on domains 2 and 3. However, domain 1, you may glean some things. Let me just say that you may see some domain 1 things. because you can tell that some things are planned out, and I'm trying to remember which video that is. I want to say it's the ELA video, one of those. But my big thing for you guys is to see what you see and then document that. If you're looking at it and you can't see any evidence of these things happening, then don't rate them. You will put like NA on that page.
Okay.
Okay.
So I scanned and emailed mine, but I only included the first page in the second and
You
third
emailed it
domains.
to me?
No. So I scanned it and emailed it to myself while I was at work so that I could submit it with just the information that we were using. So I would just need to I'll go back and just, I guess, take a picture so that I can include the rest of the pages on there that don't have the NA pages.
Yes, I like to get the whole document because here's the thing, guys, when you are literally doing this, when you become an administrator and you have to do this, you don't get to throw pages out. You have to keep the whole document at all times. So that's why I make it a practice for this class that we do it that way. Any other questions, guys, before
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, go ahead.
Does it have to be typed? I don't mind going back and typing it,
No,
but
ma'am.
okay.
Now, I told you guys in that last class or the video that these forms are a little hard to deal with sometimes, especially in PDF. They work fine if you can convert them over to a Word document, but they are really hard to deal with. So no, writing on them is fine. Let me bring this up because thinking about the question from before. Your evidence form looks different from your scripting form. Evidence is telling why you feel like that particular teacher earned that rating. Your scripting is just what you see. The teacher is doing this, that, and the third. The students are doing this, that, and the third. Your evidence and scripting, they should look different. That is another thing that people tend to get a little lost on. So make sure those two things are actually rating what they need to rate. And your professional growth system guidebook is there for you if you need any assistance with how do I think through this or that. Look back to that growth system guidebook.
Do we need to use the timestamps?
I am not a big stickler for the timestamps because what you're trying to track is 2 seconds and 5 minutes and all these things. I prefer more of you focusing in on what you see and not necessarily the time.
Okay, I have a question. That was one of my questions. The next one is, are we actually scoring the evaluation?
Yes, ma'am. The only way to do that evidence form is you got to say there are 4, 3, 2, 1. And once you rate them, then your evidence supports why you gave that score.
Okay.
And if you didn't see that, then you would just put NA on that page and not score it.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there an example page of the sorting form? I saw in the packet where it had the an example for the scripting, but I didn't see one for the sorting.
When you say an example, like one that's already filled out?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Okay.
Because everyone's sorting, think about it, everyone has their idea of what a score is for a particular setting, right? So even if we put an example on there, it won't be really what you would need when you're scoring. Anyone else?
Yes, I have a question. So on the scripting form, are you wanting us to put like everything that happens or just the highlights or?
Here's the thing. We wish that when we're sitting in a classroom, we can literally write everything that's going on, but you can't. In a video, you can pause, play, pause, play. But when you're really sitting in a classroom observing, you write the highlights, right? It's a highlight reel of what you saw. And when you sit with that teacher, you do remember more things that happen and talk about those things. But I like to jot down the high points of what's going on. I have watched every last one of these videos at least 10 times or more. So I can pretty much tell which teacher you're talking about without even going up to look at it. So yeah, you don't have to write every single action, but just those highlight big moments.
And do you want us to like quote what the teacher says if we can, or?
If you can, yeah, you can do that.
Okay,
Again, big moments. Don't overthink it.
okay, thank you.
I always say don't overthink it to educators because we spend a lot of time overthinking it because we want perfection. I mean, it's just who we are as humans. Okay. Anyone else? This is your time.
Dr. Cocker, I just want to verify that I'm thinking correctly. None of this needs to have a works cited page, correct? Because you know where we got everything from, or do we need to incorporate one?
No, I'm not looking for that. I know where you're
Okay.
getting it from. You're getting it from that guidebook, so you should be fine
Okay.
with it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're gonna go into breakout rooms. And how many people we have on here? 32. There will be 4 to 5 people in each breakout room. And as I said, it is going to be a random sort, so that you can, be in a breakout room with some people that were in your group and maybe not. And your assignment in your breakout rooms, and I'm going to give you a moment to think about this, but the domain that stood out to you the most. And I know some of you are going to be like, well, I liked all 6. I mean, but like 4 and 5 were my favorite, but I can't do without 1 and 3. That's fine. You're going to do an elevator pitch. Y'all all know what an elevator pitch is, right? That really quick, this is why this is the best thing. And it shouldn't be more than a 2-minute spiel about why that domain stood out the most to you. Okay?
My internet broke down, or I don't know if it's just me, but the last thing I heard is the domain that.
Okay, I'll go back through it. In your elevator speech, you're going to select one of the 6 domains that spoke to you the most or that you gravitated to the most. If you remember our very first class session, I told you domain 6 was the one that I needed to do the most learning around when I became a principal. So you're going to pick the one, and you may pick the one that you feel like your school lacks or that you love, or however you decide that is fine. So you're going to pick the domain, and in your group, everyone will get to share what domain was their favorite or which domain they're learning the most about. Whatever their elevator speech was around, okay? That's the first thing you're going to do. But you also need to pick someone out of your 4 to 5 members that's going to report back to the group and just kind of give us a little short spiel about what you guys talked about. So first thing is deciding who's your reporter, who's going to report out for your group, right? And then each person takes a minute to share their domain. And then we'll come back to the main group and share, okay? All right. And Miss Matthews, you had a question. See your hand raised.
Yes, my question was for the observation of scripting and sort of form. Do we rate it as informal or formal?
I'm going to be honest, I'm not concerned about that part.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All righty. So does everyone understand the breakout assignment? Any questions around the breakout assignment? Unmute and ask.
I'll try to finish it while I'm here. Well, I gotta take them. Oh.
All right. Hearing and or seeing? Oh, none. I got a message. Okay, there's no messages in the chat. Let me say this again. If you did not sign in the chat, please, please, please make sure you sign in with your name and your section number. All right, I am going to break out sessions. Each room is there. Okay. I am sending you all out. Oh, and with that being said, because it's 5 people per group, I'm going to give you guys 17 minutes in your breakouts. And it is 17 minutes, so you could have 2 minutes to decide who's going to report out. I know that's going to be like a pick me session. So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes for that, plus about a minute or two for each person to, I may need to do 20 minutes, a minute or two for each person to kind of share. Trying to make sure that's enough. Let's see, 25, 27 minutes. Okay, 27 minutes. All righty. I am sending, or you are joining. Set my timer.
You'll get cut off.
Okay, I hope that was beneficial. If nothing else, just to be able to chat a little bit with classmates and discuss some things about different environments and schools. I always say it's good to make gain different relationships from different aspects of your career and your walk in education, because you may be in a rural area, you may be in a suburban area, you may be in an urban area, but you can always help each other, because the top seat is the loneliest seat. It is. And if you're a principal without an assistant principal, then you're it. And a lot of principals are just it. And it is a lonely seat because you can't really spend a lot of time talking to the teachers about things, because then you have favorites. And then that's not looked upon as favorable as a whole school. So you have to be really careful. So when you're in these cohorts and you're in these classes, to build community so that you have people resources for when you go into your role as an administrator. The people I graduated with my specialist and my doctoral degree, I still call on some of those people. Some are still in the classroom, some are at district offices, but I still send text messages or an email or bump into them and I'm asking questions. Hey, have you seen this? Have you dealt with this? What is your district doing about this? Because believe it or not, we have so many different districts and every last one does things differently. Y'all probably know that just from being in classes with different people. So we're gonna spend this time reporting out. We had 7 groups and we always start from the top down. Let's go from the bottom up. So let's go with group 7 starting us off. I'm going to mute myself.
I don't remember our group numbers. Was that our group?
I don't remember either.
We were I think room 7.
Whatever,
Number 7?
yeah, the room
Okay.
you were in. Oh, can I pull that back up? Okay. Group 7 had Amanda in it, Renee Woods, Tony.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was 7. I thought I saw 7. Okay. So I'm the spokesperson for our group. The 3 main domains that we discussed, I'm just going to start the first one. We didn't talk about domain 1 first, but we did hit on domain 1, data-driven school. The main thing we looked at that, and in the domain it talked about appropriate analysis, appropriate use. That was one of the key things. We use data all the time, but it felt like sometimes it wasn't appropriately used in the sense that we forget about who the individual students are sometimes. Students just become numbers. And then that led us to domain 4, community care and collaboration. So as we look at the data in domain 1, we got to remember to care for our students, to care for our teachers, and build a community through collaboration. So many times teachers they tend to be an island to themselves almost. And the struggle is hard enough when you have a support system in place. And I think that's important for teachers, administrators to build that culture, because days get hard, especially when you're trying to grow students. I'm in a biology, we don't have growth. And then our group members were talking about that struggle where you have really high students who can't show growth because they're so high already and they feel penalized. Maybe they just had a bad day. So that ties back into appropriate use of data. How are we going to use the data and still create a culture of care and collaboration? And then that took us to domain 5 with core values. So that's kind of like our umbrella where everything was fitting up under, what do we truly care about? What is, I think you referred to it, my non-negotiables. I've heard you say that several times, like I want to communicate, this is what we're going to do. Okay, we do have to deal with data. We do have to deal with SPED students who don't test in areas. How are we going to celebrate them and show care and concern for them? There's just so many different diversity levels within a school. So we can't just say everything is data driven, even though schools are data driven. We have to have a community that so many things feed into it. And I think that falls under our core values. So that was pretty much trying to concise everything that we put together there.
Great job, group 7. It is a lot, and I am one of those who believes in the notion of kids are not test scores. They're just not. I don't care. They're just not. And growth for one is different than growth for all. And we forget that sometimes, even as administrators, I am guilty. I forget that because we are under that accountability model, and we have to keep that in mind. But they are children. I always say that, especially when the 3rd graders do something, and I'm like, they're 7 and 8. I mean, and your older kids are 9. I'm like, remember when your own personal children were 7 and 8? You scooped them up in the store and picked them up and carried them through. I'm like, they're children. So you have to remember they are kids. So thank y'all, group 7. Y'all did a great job. Room 7. Room 6 is Andrea, Brittany, Hannah, and I'm going to mess your name up, Miss Matthews, so I'm not going to do that. So who's your spokesperson?
So Brittany?
Yeah, I am. We talked about several domains. Starting off with domain 4. Safe and supportive culture is vital for fostering a positive learning environment and promoting student well-being. We feel like that the staff should feel valued being in the school system. Students should feel safe. That plays a huge part for our academic success. We also talked about domain 1 being a data-driven school. Some people don't know how to read data, so that plays a huge part as well. In being an effective teacher or even a school leader. We know data drives our instruction. So in order to read the data, if we don't know how to read the data, how will we be able to drive the instruction for our students? It helps empower schools to create a more effective, responsive, and equitable educational environment. Not only that, could schools come up with PDs, introduce PDs to our teachers to help us be able to read data, and understand the importance of using the data to drive our instruction. We also talked about core values, the importance of a school leader being transparent and being able to be open, communicate with the teacher, the staff, as well as the community effectively. Trust the staff to openly make decisions or help make decisions, give ideas to help increase the equity of our students in our school.
Or,
That was it.
thank you so much for sharing, Brittany. I mean, all good things, best practices. Appreciate y'all's group. Where we are, group 5. Holly, Jonathan. That's room 5.
Okay, I'm the spokesperson. So Miss Boone and Miss McCullum, they chose number 4, the collaboration, as their top one. And it's just because we need each other. And if you don't feel like you're valued, if you don't feel like you're a part of a team and you are an island to yourself, then you're not going to want to stay there for very long. You're going to get burnt out. You need support from each other. You need to feel like you're a family and that you're valued, and you need to feel safe and supported, and you want to work together to develop lessons. If you're teaching 2 or 3 different things, and like Miss McCullum said that she teaches 2 state tested classes, so, and she's an island to herself and she doesn't have any help, she's going to get burnt out quick, and she needs that support. And so Miss Frost and Mr. Jonathan Partridge and me, we feel like number 5, the core values, is the most important, because when students grow up, they're not going to remember the lessons you taught them. They're going to remember how they were treated, how they were respected. And that also goes along, though, with number 4, because the core values of your leaders, if they don't value you and you don't feel respected, you're not going to want to stay there very long. So we just talked about that and how we feel like that number 4 and number 5 go hand in hand with each other, and how in order to keep teachers, you need to respect teachers, and just be able to trust each other and have that respect between the leadership and the teachers.
Thank you. All good things. Group 4. Room 4, it was Barbara, Breland, Colton. That's your room.
Okay, so good morning again. We had several domains that were chosen in our group, and I'm just going to kind of go in order as I was taking the notes and we were speaking out. But we had several that were in agreement with several different domains. So I'm going to start with domain 5, culture and climate. So several of us felt that culture and climate was very important because it includes everyone. It allows the students to come in and also be able to feel that respect and that need, as well as the students and teachers as well, working or being there in the community, inside the schools together. So that was one of the things. Also mentioning that, nobody wants to wake up and go to a place where it's not fun and daunting, and you don't have that administration that creates that culture and climate that make you want to get up and go to work and work together and get everything done. Another domain that was discussed, domain 4, community care and collaboration, was important because you can't be effective and grow without that community support. So you need to be able to have the community and feel that need of connectedness as well. And it also allows the students to see how effective it is to have the community to support and allow different things to happen with that support of the community. We also discussed that when everyone is working together, you can achieve more. And that's one of the biggest things that, help with students to feel wanted as well. So it makes it easier for students to adapt and be successful when everyone can collaboratively work together. We also looked at domain 1 as data being crucial because it's your evidence of where you are and where you need to go. And so when you're monitoring that data, you can make the effective changes whenever they need to be, whether it's in the beginning or the middle, so that you can have the outcome that you've set as your goals and your missions. We kind of did talk about how some tied in together, speaking in terms of domain 4 and domain 1, because you need to be able to have the rapport and the relationships and say, hey, something is not working, and be able to go out and that be receptive and not be offended, others being offended, and be able to do what you need to do for the well-being of the students in your school. And we also kind of wrapped up with it's good to be well-rounded, whereas we might have favorite domains, but all of them are needed collectively in order for everything to kind of fall into place and work.
I'm muted. Great job, room 4. I do believe what you said at the very end was very important. All of them work together in order for it to be successful. Some days you spend more time in one area than the other, but they do work together. Room 3, Amanda, Kendra, LaShonda, Mason, and I think DeAndrea.
Okay, so we discussed several domains, domains 1, 2, and 5. With domain 1, of course, data is very important. It helps it helps the school provider, well, the leader, to provide a clear vision for the school. Also, we can look at the data to see how it can make it, how we can make that data or use that data for our benefit for the teachers and the students. For instance, we can look at that data for the students to determine what interventions that we may need to provide for them and other supports and services. Lesson 2, domain 2, that talked about lesson planning and making sure that we have the necessary accommodations for the students whenever we are whenever we are devising or developing the plan for them. We also want to make sure that teachers are teaching what they're supposed to teach, because of course that's very important in helping those students reach those goals and achieve reach their academic potential. I'll put it that way. Let's see here. And it's also important that we try to stick to the curriculum, that we stick to the curriculum, not try, but that we follow the curriculum. That's very important. Okay. The next thing, domain 5, the core values, creating a safe environment for the kids. We need to make sure that we show up for the kids, making sure that they feel safe, because we know that kids can't learn in a chaotic environment, in an environment that they don't feel safe in. So we want to make sure that that environment is conducive to learning for both the teachers and the students. Teachers need to be able to teach in a safe environment also. And the core values help in shaping the environment of the school. So we always want to make sure that we keep those core values out there, make that a daily practice for the school.
Awesome. Great job. I love the chaotic part.
Yeah.
They cannot learn in a place of chaos. They just cannot. Adults can't either.
Yeah.
We always talk about kids need to be, I always say kids need this feeling of being safe and being loved, but adults do too.
Yeah.
No one wants to be in an environment where they're unappreciated and they feel like they're not safe. So room 2, y'all are up next. Annabeth, Ashley, that's your group, your room. Gotta unmute, guys.
I didn't write down last names, so I don't know if that's my group or not.
Yes, that is your group.
Okay, it's me then. Okay. I wrote down everybody's last name. I don't know their first names. So most of us focused on domain 5. Miss Castillo brought that one up. She said core values was very important because it sets the tone for the whole school, which is we're just kind of echoing what's already been said there today. If you go to school with the you go to school with the bad attitude, if the culture and climate isn't right, but when the culture and climate is right, kids actually want to be there. And we also emphasize that even the kids who aren't going there because they necessarily want to learn, they enjoy, when the culture and climate is right, they enjoy being in the space and being a part of that family. We also focused on how this domain is important for the teachers as well. Mr. Loving said that when you gain the trust of your staff, the teachers want to be there. And it helps us retain teachers. And we all know that that's a very hard thing to do these days. And once you lose one, it's really hard to replace them. He said that consistency and communication equals progress for the school. Hang on, baby girl. And then I'm sorry, my sitter backed out today. Perfect day for that. And then we focused on, or we talked a little bit about domain 6. I brought this one up because it's one that I don't know much about. And I feel like, well, we all talked about how the principals kind of keep the budget to themselves. And it's not that lack of transparency is because they don't want us to know, or it's not necessarily a negative connotation to that. It's just not something that's traditionally shared with the teachers. So as we're moving up and we're taking on different responsibilities, this piece is a little bit scary because it's so important to the school, just like running your own house and knowing your own bank account. Like we don't really know. We're coming at that one blind. And then also the compliance piece of that domain, coming from SPED, there's a lot to know there. And so someone coming into an admin position, hang on, baby, who doesn't have a SPED background, that's a whole lot of information that they need to know. And I would hope that coming into that position, you would have someone that you could lean on who does know, because it took me, I was a SPED director for 3 years at my last place in New Orleans, and it took a long time to learn all of those laws and all of those compliance pieces. And it was scary when you didn't know something that you needed to know. When I'm done talking, baby, we also talked about, briefly, we talked about domains 2 and 3 for the instruction of a viable curriculum. We agree that it's important to have high quality material that all of our teachers are using, but we also think that you should proceed with that with caution, because oftentimes the people who are making the decisions about what that high quality curriculum is haven't been in the classroom in a while. And even though the rigor might be there, it may not be interesting to your kids. And so we think that it's important to keep that in mind when you're making those decisions. We don't want everything off teachers pay teachers, but we also want to give them stuff that's fun and differentiated, and UDL is awesome and all those things. Domain 3, development of teachers and staff. We talked about how the different schools handle their PLCs, and it was interesting how vastly different that was managed. It seemed like the bigger schools and the bigger school districts had, dare I say, better, more convenient timing for their PLCs. And then the smaller schools, we had one teacher who has once a week, they stay until 4:30, and once a month they stay until 5. And the rest of us, our jaws kind of dropped because we're like, what? Like, we've got to pick up our babies. So yeah, that was interesting. But that pretty much, oh, we also talked about data, because Mr. Loving is coming from a coaching background, and he's a PE teacher. And he said that he feels a little bit disconnected from the data that's used to set the goals for the school, because he's not in those classrooms, which kind of highlighted an interesting point that if we want teachers to teach across the curriculum, why are we not inviting everyone to those data chats? And that's all I've got.
Very interesting, and all of those different things, but I will add on to the whole part with Mr. Loving. We are a bigger school. We're not huge, but we are a bigger school. And so we do have dedicated PLC times. And my last group of the day is my specials teachers, because they need to know what we talked about in curriculum. and what we've talked about across the board, whether we have someone who comes in to do a PD on something. So we do encourage our specials teachers to come in. I mean, we don't encourage, it's expected. Change that verbiage there. It's expected. And if you are going into administration, I know a lot of time coaches and PE teachers come in because they're trying to be athletic directors. But if your walk is to be an administrator, the days of going to a interview for a administrator role and you just need to be a manager, those days are long gone. So if you don't know anything about data, you want to try to get yourself a seat in that room so you can learn. Ask the questions, go in the classrooms, and be that person who's hunting the data so that you can set that precedence of I am someone who wants to know data. I want to know how to help kids in that realm. But with all of the things, oh wait, we're not on done. I was getting ready to start the end spiel. Room one, Beth, Broderick, Madison, that's room one.
That's me.
All right.
We two of us thought that domain one was the most critical to focus on, and that was coming from experiences that both of those people had had. They felt like domain one was critical because it shows the direction that the school is going, what's being mastered, and if we're following standards. There were some concerns that one of our members had related to the overall district rating and then performance on individual scores. They weren't matching up, so that person had some questions. Another individual that was interested in domain one said that they felt like that when you really drill down and look for those strengths and weaknesses, that doesn't just help improve for that individual student or that individual teacher's scores, it helps improve the school as a whole. So that the data piece, domain one was most important. Another individual in our group felt like domain five was the one. The core values, she said that when there's buy-in and team building, when administrators are transparent and show themselves to be trustworthy, then all the little things can then snap into place. When that big relationship is formed, then it's easier to get other issues resolved. And this was also based on her experience with her current administration. She felt like they showed this in action and that it was a really good model for her. Two of us, myself included, felt like domain four was the most important piece. Leadership that the admin shows affects the entire school, and it starts like from the top down. So when that climate and culture is established, when people feel comfortable, when they feel safe, then as other people have already said, we want to be there, and not just us, our kids want to be there. So that trickle down effect from the top that comes with domain four. And those were the things that we said. And I think that, a lot of what we said was repeated by earlier groups too. So
thank you. That's the good thing about the domains. You will start hearing the same things being restated over and over because they are that important. Data is very important. And I know in the classroom, and if you are a tested subject, the pressure of it, or if you are a SPED teacher and you sit in those data meetings and it's like, oh, well, we're talking about my kids. They're the ones that didn't meet growth, and I've heard it. I've sat in those meetings and my teachers, the SPED teachers are feeling like, okay, we know, am I the one you're referring to? No, I'm not. I mean, they're SPED students, but they sit in a general education classroom. I'm not talking to one person. It's a whole. But at the same time, they are kids. And I always say that when we start a data talk, I start with their children that we love and care for. The data piece of that is if you have a kid who sits in your room for 180 days, right? The accountability model says if they're a third grader and they score 365, when they're in fourth grade and they score a 465, they've had a year's worth of growth. They did not drop, right? So they learned all the content you wanted them to learn in fourth grade. That's the piece that I think a lot of times we forget. They are a solid 4. Well, they're not solid, but they're a 4 at a 365 or 465. we have to know that if we keep them there, we didn't lose. There was no learning loss. And understanding that piece is the most important. If you have a kid that's a 3 and he's a 3 in 4th grade and he's a 3 in 5th grade, he might just be a 3. You know, and we have those data conversations around. Yes, do we want every child to be proficient? Yes, 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 yes. That's the ultimate goal. It's just like I want every dress I put on to be a size 2. That's the ultimate goal. I'm not there. Okay, but that's the goal. We want every football player to win, right? We want them to walk off the field every game winning, right? That's the goal. Sometimes we get close to the goal, but we don't make it. But understanding kids and building relationships, going back to core values, understanding children. And if I understand every child that I touch in my classroom, I know that Nicole is a solid 3. I'm not going to let Nicole be a 2 because I've tracked this kid. I've given summatives and formatives and all the things, the benchmarks. This child is a solid 3. You're not going to be a 2. That's what data tells us. If a kid's a 5 and we go into a benchmark and that kid drops to a 2, I'm coming and have a conversation. Did you have a bad day this day? Did something happen? Because this kid has been a 5 all year. That's when we start talking about a system where we're supporting children and not just tracking data. The curriculum piece, domain 2, collective teacher efficacy. That's where that becomes something for all teachers to be reliant upon. When I'm sitting in a meeting with my whole 3rd grade team for PLCs, I'm not asking one teacher why their scores are different. I'm asking the collective what happened. Collective teacher efficacy. We live and die as a team. When I get scores at the end of the year in June, July, it doesn't say Dr. Cockrell scores. It says 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. Now I do dig deep and I'm going to analyze and pull out my teachers individually and do all those things. But we look at them as a group first, right? Collective teacher efficacy will guarantee that we have a viable curriculum for all. All. I may have a SPED student, and what we say in my building is a little different. This student has reached capacity. When they get in 5th grade, there's no way they're going to break a fraction down or put it back together or compare it to a decimal. They've reached capacity. We have inclusion students that reach capacity. And now that MDE does not offer an occupational diploma, in elementary, I can't speak for middle and high, but in elementary, all of them are on a diploma track unless they are an SCD student, right? So as administrators, your job is to make the hard decisions of what to do with a kid who does not have the IQ to be in an SCD classroom, but also does not have the IQ to perform on a state assessment. Do you badger your teachers to death because that kid in a 3? Or do you say to your SPED teacher and that gen ed teacher and say, hey, we're going to keep this kid knowing addition and subtraction and life skills and progress that way? Those are the decisions you'll make about your curriculum. That's that guaranteed viable curriculum for all. Equitable is not going to be equal and is not going to be fair, but it will be equitable. Then we get to our lovely, where am I? Domain 3. And then we go into 4 and 5, and we go into 6. And y'all covered 3, 4, and 5 beautifully. I don't even have to touch those. But domain 6, and I'm going back to what was said about that's the thing that teachers don't know anything about. No one hands you the budget. You know what? We get a budget, but we still don't understand all the pieces of it because there are budget lines that you get to spend here and there. I make more calls to the finance director, or my bookkeeper does, because we're making sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. Teachers aren't going to get the budget because it's not for you. It just isn't. And that's the pieces of it. When I was an assistant principal, I got some of the information about the budget, but I didn't get all the information. It was not for me. And that's the thing about the lead share. There's going to be some things you're learning as you're learning. You know, you're going to learn this and that. I always say, I don't know what I don't know until I don't know it. And that'll be part of that job. Vincent had a hand raised. I don't see him on my screen.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
And I kind of wanted to just kind of, I guess, um, kind of see the best way to ask this question. But when you talk about your role as an administrator, equitable, all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage or draw the line between educating and producing the numbers? And I don't know a better way to say it. So I guess the best example I can think of right now is high school mathematics, right? The Algebra 1 test utilizes Desmos. Desmos allows teachers, and it's not just this is just one example. Desmos allows students, you can almost pass the Algebra 1 test with the tool alone, with knowing very little of the actual math behind it, right? But the issue with that is, again, is that's not educating, right? You're producing numbers without actually educating. How do you draw that line between saying, yes, we're going to educate, we want the numbers, we want the depth, we want the high scores, but our job is to educate.
As an administrator, that speaks to your core values. So you may be in a building where your principal's core values is the numbers. Your core values may ultimately speak to the fact that you want lifelong learners or you want kids who can understand algebra. And so that goes back to when we talked in our second virtual. I would have that notebook and I'd be jotting down what are my core values? What are the things that are, the things that I'm not gonna shy away from? I believe in test scores. I am a proponent for I want high test scores. I'm not gonna lie about that. And if you have a principal that says, no, I don't care about my test scores, they're lying or they're not gonna have that seat for very long. Those are the options. But at the same time, what do I care about most? I care about my faculty, my staff, and my students. And I'm not going to sacrifice the people for the test score, if that makes sense. My first year as the principal and we had our testing season and I didn't have a kid to cry. I felt like that was an accomplishment. And I know for other people, they won't see that. But for me, before we even dug into our data, the first thing I said to the teachers was, pat yourselves on the back. We gave the writing test and no one cried. Third, fourth, and fifth graders cried every year when they saw the writing test and couldn't put anything on paper. And it's like, but that was an accomplishment. Were our writing scores magnificent? No, they were good. They were okay. I'm not even gonna say good. They were okay. We did a whole new writing curriculum that year. And I had to tell the teachers 3 to 5 years, man, third year, you're going to see some improvements. We have 3 grades. Those third graders get to fifth grade, you're going to see a shift. You have to know what it is your core values stand for. I want readers. I want kids who love to read. Do I want all of them to be a 5 or a 4 on the state test? Yes. But what do I think will benefit them most is being able to read and annotate a text and comprehend. That's the goal. And I think testing sometimes does cloud the goal. Hopefully I answered your question.
Thank you, John. Big game's supposed to start at 9:45. We're trying to catch up. How long is it going to take? I'm just going to get the card and we'll be ready.
Anyone else has anything they'd like to share on that? And it looks different. I've worked in 3 different school districts, and I've had a total of 6 different principals. I can literally do 2 lists, good and bad, and list principals, I don't want my name to be listed under the bad. I don't want my name listed under the list that says is test driven. I've always wanted to be a people driven person, but I am very task oriented, sort of type A, not 100% type A, but sort of. So, but know yourself. If you don't do any of those inventories about your personality, you need to do personality inventories. I just did one with my staff for our PD day last Monday. This Monday, this week isn't over yet. Goodness. This Monday is called the Compass Point, and it talks about Northwest, East, and South behaviors. I just knew I was going to be a North, true North. I was not, because again, I'm people oriented. So you need to know those things about yourself as you start thinking about your next steps. I always think of myself as a person who cares about kids the most. I really care about kids. So that will also guide your decision making when you go into the administrative role. And if you're an assistant principal, you got to have thick skin. When you become an assistant principal, your big duty will be discipline. That's the biggest thing you'll deal with: bus discipline, school discipline. And parents are mean. They just are. And I tell my teachers all the time, I am the crazy parent. I am. I know I am that crazy parent. I'm the person who will read your email and shoot one back before I think about it. You know, I've grown up a little bit. Now I don't do that so much. I do read it and I let it sit to the next day and then send it. Think about that parent before you send something out, because you have those in your classroom. And that, as an administrator, you're constantly rotating through all of those thoughts at all times of the day. You are the person, you are the decision maker for everything that goes on in your school. So you have to operate in all 6 domains at all times. And that's just the sheer reality of the job. I have enjoyed this class. I have truly loved listening to your ideas, because I believe in iron sharpens iron. And every time I teach this class, I learn something new that I can even implement, and different thoughts about how things can be improved. Make some relationships. I say this to every cohort that starts this program, because I think this is one of your first classes in this cohort. Make a group me with your cohort. These are the people you will track with until y'all graduate. The cohort group me's are good in that if you're a busy mom, a busy coach, all the things, the group helps you remember when big things are due, when you need to register, when you need to get some forms in. That's the good thing about the group me. You can put it on silent in your phone if you don't want to see the notifications, but it is good to have a group that you can track with and can keep you on track. Upcoming things, we've already addressed the things that are due. Please have everything turned in by November 2nd. I'm gonna put a 0 there, and I'm gonna keep moving on. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I turn things in on time. I do not like to turn things in late. Again, type A. I like all my ducks beak to tail. So not in a row. Y'all heard what I said. Beak to tail, not in a row. It's a difference. So make sure everything's in by November 2nd. I'm going to go back through all of your grades, and if there's things that are missing that you may have missed, I will send you an email directly asking for that. If I have put in the comments section, please resubmit it. If I don't put that in the comment section, I am not going to regrade it. I'm very direct too, sorry. So don't send it to me again, because I'm not going to regrade it. That grade is your grade unless I've asked you to resubmit it. And most times when I ask for a resubmit, it's because you were completely off base with the assignment. And when people are off base, I think that's an understanding thing, like you just didn't understand the directions. So that's why I offer the option to resubmit. I don't want you to have a terrible grade. I don't think I have anything else. Is there any other closing comments, concerns that I need to address before we dismiss for the day?
Dr. Cocker, I don't have a question,
Mhm.
but I just wanted to let you know that I did email a question concerning one of the score, not actual score, but one of the assignments. I saw
Okay.
like a flag or something, and I didn't understand.
Okay, and as I said earlier, I have been really bad about responding to emails this week. I am literally gonna get my life back on track today and get some grades put in and answer a lot of emails. And in Germantown land, homecoming is a week. So, and if you have a child on the court, we have parades on Thursday, meetings on Wednesday, game on Friday, and then they have a dance tonight. So my life has been consumed with homecoming all week. And so for that, I do apologize. I like a 24-hour return on most things. So I will answer all emails that are in the queue today. And if there are any inbox things in Canvas, and I should have your grades all up to date by tomorrow. So you guys can know where you stand as you're finishing up. That's important. For me, when I was doing this program, that was important. I like to know what my score is. So I will get all that up to date for y'all. If there is nothing else, y'all have a great weekend. I know Jackson State's playing at home, so I know what my people are all getting ready for today. If you did not sign in with your name, please make sure you do that before you get off because that's how I take attendance. And if there is nothing else, y'all have a great weekend and a
You
strong
too.
finish to the trimester.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. You too.
Thank you,
Thanks
Dr.
to
Cocker.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.